Hello, everybody, and to our very special guest, Megan Morgan, all the way from Sacramento, California. I am so honored that you have agreed to come on here and share a little bit of your life journey and story with us, and how you have developed throughout the years your own relationship with yourself. So, before we talk about all of that good stuff that I know you're going to give us a lot of input, please tell us who Megan is. Megan Maria Morgan, what you're about, what you're up to nowadays, and kind of how your life looks right now.
Okay, thank you, Janice, so much for having me here today. I was really excited to be able to spend this time with you and reconnect. And to everyone else out there, thanks for tuning in. This is so fun. So I am constantly in transition and wear many hats. So I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I'm a mom. I work full-time during the day corporately. And I moved to the United States, to California about 6 years ago. I had this dream after attending grad school in San Francisco that I could live in California. I'd never been able to visualize myself living in the US before that. We have lots of family on, all over the States, but something really drew me to this place. And I'd say kind of one of the pivotal things about me that's happened in the last couple of years, last February, my first book, it's called The End of Me, was released, and it's a longer story, but there's 3 times that I've physically died in my life, and I wrote about each of those experiences. I write a lot about the yoga experience because I believe every time we do yoga, we kind of bring ourselves back from the dead, like we just reconnect to what's really important in our lives and to ourselves, like just having that be distilled down through the practice of yoga, through breath work, through meditation, and also through connection and community. I'm a huge believer in community, and this, as we know, we're doing this virtually because we can't meet in person right now. So one of the challenges of this time, I feel, is figuring out these ways where we can still connect to people. So connection is still just as important virtually as it is in person. And basically my goal in life, no matter what I'm doing, I think I can do all the things. Like all those things are there. You can't always successfully do them well at the same time, but you can carve out those niches for yourself, and to help others. Like I want what I'm doing to make a difference, not just in my life, but in other people's lives as well, and love connecting with people like you who I know are doing the same things. Like that's an automatic magnetism for me, and to be able to share that wisdom and that knowledge that's a little different for everybody, because you never know when some little thing you might say or do can impact another person, and vice versa. There are things people have said and done over the years that have transformed, the way I think and do things just by that one small gesture. So anyway, don't want to go on forever, but
That's amazing. There's something about your spirit, your being, that I just am drawn toward, and I love. So just watching you on social media and the things you post, and how uplifting and encouraging you are, and very humble and grounded also. It's just, you have an amazing combination, and there's this deep power in you that I love, and I see it shining through. So keep on that. And speaking of our internal power, how has your relationship with yourself been throughout the course of your life? Like, has there ever been a time in your life where you have actually hated yourself? Or maybe that's too strong of a word, but just not really connected to yourself, not known yourself, not understood, or not accepted yourself?
Oh, most definitely. And you're right, hate is a strong word, and it's not one I use often, but it's probably been the truth at certain times. As a little kid, I would say there's been waves of it throughout, woven through childhood, through the teen years, and even as an adult. And it's interesting, one of my mentors, Aria Magdalene, and she one of a course I took with her, she said a lot of the times when we get to that point where we just can't stand ourselves anymore, it's because we're ready to let that go. And the body is just like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. And then you're able to shed that. In other cases, for other people, it doesn't. They do legitimately have self-hatred and they can get stuck in these things. But sometimes I like to think of it, because eventually I came out of it. Something happened and I was able to let it go. And when those things happen, it's 9 times out of 10 when I perceive or I feel like someone has actually tried to disempower me or taken my power away from me. Like I've been subjected to something, or something violent has happened, or somebody said something really cruel, or, all those things that like, ooh, kind of hit you in the gut, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. And so when you're able to take that power back, and so the fact that you said that earlier, that you see this, like, I think you said quiet power, or you said some kind of power in me. And I was like, oh, that's like the hugest compliment anybody could ever give me. It's because when I feel disempowered, and I think a lot of us do, that's when we feel like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm ugly, or I'm not deserving. And, all those things just start to come in because we feel like something's been taken away and we're less than. So, yeah.
So was there a pivotal moment for you of change and transformation? And maybe not just one, maybe there's been several, but does anything come to mind when there was a shift and you knew you were either going to grow or you're going to stagnate and stay stuck?
Yeah.
And obviously, from what I see, you chose to grow and to move. But was there a specific event or life situation where that transformation took place?
Yeah, and I'd say it continues to happen. But some of the smaller pivotal events, so funny that you asked me that. I was on a run this morning. I remembered a song came on that I really loved as I was running. And I just stopped and I kind of like danced. I was like dancing down the street. I was just like, I love to dance. But I remember being really little and an older person in my family coming into the kitchen and seeing me dancing. And they were like, oh, you need to stop that. Like, you can't dance like that. Like, kids shouldn't dance like that. Girls shouldn't dance like that. And let's turn off this music. And I grew up in a quasi-religious household, but it wasn't like we weren't allowed to dance. But I remember in that moment knowing that they were wrong, and like knowing that feeling of how I felt when I danced, when I heard good beat, for me, like it's not for everybody, but for me, I was like, no, I feel good doing this. And I know this is going to do something in my life. And then, moving beyond that. So I've always had to work to like not be shy about saying that I love to dance, whether I'm any good or not. Like I've never even taken lessons, but dancing was one of those things. And then in the teenage years, I was able to go and live with some other relative. It was sparked by a negative event. Someone passed away in our family. And so I was invited to go and live with these relatives and go to a really good school, like a really good girls' boarding school, and get an education. It was like perceived by the outside, like by my friends and family, like, oh my God, this is awful. You're going out to the middle of the Canadian prairies to attend this school. And it was, again, a pivotal moment because I got to move to a bigger city. I was in a different environment. I was able to go to school without worrying about boys and just like focus on my studies and like really learn, and discover, oh, I can actually be intelligent. I don't have to feel like I'm fighting all these other things that are distracting me, and just focus on my education. And then I guess the events after that were the 3 instances where I, my heart stopped in various instances. I drowned once, I was in a car accident, and when one of my daughters was born. And each of those were like super profound. Like those are a longer story, which is why it's in the book. But and I feel like I continue to have them. Like I continue to have those experiences where I'm just like, I'm getting older now. You know, I just had a photo shoot. I'm working on writing an article for a magazine actually about yoga, and they wanted pictures to go with it. So I worked with this photographer and I felt really good. And then I got the pictures and I'm like, oh, and I immediately started like picking apart like what I, not the photographer, but what I looked like. Oh, but I have so much gray now. Oh my gosh, you can see all my wrinkles. Oh, I like weigh 15 pounds more than I did 20 years ago. And I just immediately started, and I'm like, I can't do that. I just have to take that step back and just be like, no, there's all these good things. There's still things about me that are lovable. No one's going to love me less because my belly is bigger, you know, but we're taught that that physical perfection is what we always have to get. And sometimes we do, and it feels good and it looks good, but it's not, it doesn't encompass everything that's lovable about us.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that is such a huge deal right now. I mean, it's a huge deal for teenagers, for women getting older, for, you know, those of us in our 40s, for, it really is a big deal about this feeling of not being good enough and tearing ourselves down, nitpicking every little thing. So, Megan, what would you say? I mean, I know you said a little bit of your own internal dialogue, but what are some things that we could really go to mentally, spiritually, when we are feeling so not good enough in that realm of physical beauty, of, you know, aging, of wrinkles, of social media and comparison? And because that's something I struggle with hugely. So I want to talk about it. You know, I'm like, let's have the conversation, women, and let's move through this. So
Yeah.
what would you say?
That's that quote. Oh my gosh. And you're so right. I don't know who said it. It was comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, and we know this, but like we can't help it. And there are many ways in which social media can do that, right? Because you look at all this stuff and it's very easy to go into that mindset of like, she's better, she's prettier, she's more successful, she's got it all together. And so every once in a while, like, you know, my platform is mostly about just like sharing the things that I love and what I'm doing and what's happening with my family. And here's a little bit of yoga, and you know, it's like a mishmash of my life. But every once in a while, I will do a post about like, you know, and I don't like to do it, but I feel like I'm not accused in a negative way, but I have had people kind of make comments that are like, must be nice to have such a great life. Or, you know, it's kind of that tone of like, you know, they're looking at it and they feel that in themselves. And so they're expressing that. It doesn't happen often. So I'm grateful for that. But it just reminds me to be real too. Like if I'm always pumping the positivity, but never talking about the things that get me down, then that affects other people too, because they might come to me or to my page for inspiration, but I think they also want to know that I'm a human being that has fears, and you know that's what makes us human. So work in progress. I actually love finding inspiration from other women. Like when I see people who are embracing their gray, if that's their thing, or somebody who's looking at their skin. There's some photographers and they specifically look at folds in their skin, or they'll show pictures side by side, like, oh, here's me at like the perfect camera angle of my bikini. Here's what I look like just normally sitting down, and embracing all of that. And then what I've started to do more too, and I think it's been spurred by the fact that we have to stay home. So it's not like I'm going to walk down my street in a bathing suit, but I'll post a picture in a bathing suit, which I told myself I would never, ever, ever do. And I know you competed in a fitness competition, I think last year. And I was just like, ah! Like, it was so great. Like I was excited for you in this moment to keep pushing myself to do these things, whether anybody sees me or not, but also trying to find the courage to share those less than perfect moments, because that's still lovable too. Like now when I see things out in the world, it's like it's a slick ad campaign, and you know, I work in marketing, and that's what people want to see. At the same time, I find that people also really respond to the reality of what something really is. So like I work for an architectural firm, an interior design firm. People really love the in progress photos. So what if there's a crane in the picture? Or so what if there's like dust on the floor. There's like something exciting about something being in progress and like knowing there's this journey. And I think people are the same. So seeing kind of the bumps in the road and whatever. And I have to be okay that like I'm embracing my gray now. I can't see it much now, I don't think, but I'm just like, I stopped dyeing my hair about a year ago and cut it all off. And I have a lot of hair, and it grows fast. So like, it's fine. And also with this, like racially, I'm like multi-ethnic. My father is Black, and my mom is white, but they both had like a mixed background as well. I've since found out doing a DNA test. So I've struggled, I feel like, for other people to accept my hair, but really I had to do it first. So now I'm like, okay, I got this big fro, I'm letting the gray grow in, and I feel like have more compliments now than ever that I'm doing less with it than I was before. Not that there's anything, I'm not judging anybody who wants to relax their hair or color their hair or whatever, but embracing imperfection, right? And oh my gosh, this woman that I met when I was teaching yoga at the gym a couple of years ago, and she was actually from India, and she didn't speak very much English, and she came in like full sari, and she couldn't do any seated positions. She would just stay standing at the back, but she would always like, thank you, namaste. And then she was moving back to India after about 6 months of practice. And she came up and she like took me by the shoulders and she's like, Megan, I hope you'll always stay perfect in your imperfection. And I was just like, oh, it was like, I'll never forget that. And I was just like, it just felt like, again, the biggest compliment, like you saying, like you see power, the fact that she was like, you're perfect in your imperfect self. So I hope that wasn't too rambling of an answer.
No, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. That is how special, and I know we were talking earlier about just the little nuggets that we hear at whatever time in our life that just hit us right in the gut. And it's like the thing that we needed to hear in that moment. Mm-hmm. So we're going to wrap up, but I would love for you to tell our viewers how, like what things they can do, just maybe quick things where they can have a quick win when they are on this path. And it's a process. It's not like we ever arrive, but on this path of self-love and self-acceptance and growing really that relationship with ourselves. What are some things you've done, and what are things that you would like to encourage other people to do that have worked for you in becoming the woman that you are today?
I'll say breath work, and it's twofold. One is like if you're in a moment of panic or just feeling totally frustrated, or just for whatever reason, just finding a way to take a deep breath in and out, and then doing 2, 3, 4, 5 more, 10, as many as it takes to just get your heart rate down and your breath like in order, because we hold our breath and we tense up when we're not breathing. And we all do it. We don't belly breathe, we like chest breathe, and then that tightness just grows. So it sounds really simple, that's kind of hard to remember, but it's funny, the watches now remind us when we're not breathing, which I love. I think that's a fabulous bit of technology. And then the other thing is sensation. So finding a spot to sit, whether it's inside, outside, wherever you are, and like focusing your eyes on something. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you sense? What can you smell? What can you taste? It's just like this, what you feel underneath your seat. If you put your hands out, like what's in the air, like what's palpable there, like all the things that just connect you back to what's here right now. Because when we get spun out, we tend to like, we lift off, our feet aren't on the ground anymore. We just, I can't breathe, I can't, and so then we can't, we cannot figure out anything else because we're just like floating away in the atmosphere. And you just need to get back down into the body and then love that body. So when you're sitting there and you get these sensations, and like notice your hands, and maybe place a hand on your heart and on your belly, and that connects with the breath work. And Yeah, and then movement of some sort. Like, yes, there are days where we feel down and we just want to sit inside and watch Netflix. I get it, and eat. But on the other hand, I also know when I like just get up and get out, and even if it's just a walk, it doesn't have to be a run. You don't have to lift weights or do anything complicated, but just some sort of movement where the body's like, oh yeah, and then your brain is stimulated and your eyes, and yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, I agree so much. And it's so interesting how we can resist those, or at least for me, how I know it's the thing I need to do is to change my state, right? And and there's this resistance of like, no, I'm going to be in this negative state and I'm going to feel like crap and I just am just going to be here. And yeah, as soon as we move, as soon as we start breathing consciously and intentionally and come into ourselves, we feel better. We will feel those effects. Okay, so I lied. One last thing, super quick. So a quote that I really love, I'll share it. And then if there's a specific quote that you have in mind to share also, that would be amazing. And then we'll wrap up. But I love the quote, and a dear friend of mine sent me a card once that had this on the front, and I kept it, and it's up on my little board because I love it so much. But it's she needed a hero, so she became one. There's something about that quote that just resonates with me, that I love, that has all to do with self-love and the power that we hold within that we are unaware of. You know, how much power we have and love we have, and this process of getting to know ourselves and developing that relationship is going to benefit us hugely, and it's going to benefit the people around us and the world. So that is my one quote that I keep coming back to, that motivates me. And what is your quote that motivates you, that you'd like to share?
I love that one as well. I have 2 daughters, and that's one of the things, like, if I can't remind myself, I've got to at least do it for them. Like, what would I say to my younger self? What would I say to my daughter? And I would never say to them some of the things I would say to myself. So that's a beaut. And when I found this morning, which I thought was great, it's by Najwa Zebian. And she says, feminism is about letting women be who they are without shaming them for it. And I was like, oh, like all those words, right? Like shame, like because somebody is okay with, you know, expressing their physical body or their mental body, whatever it is. There's so many things that we put labels on, but it's just like allowing yourself to be feminine in what that means for you, without shame. Just like embracing who you are and all that complexity.
And we are complex. It is true. Thank you so much, Megan. Seriously, you are a light, and keep doing what you're doing and inspiring others. It's beautiful to watch.
Thank you, Janice. I feel the same way about you. So, yeah.
Mwah.
Yes. Mwah.